The number of people confirmed to have died in Saturday's attacks in Israel by the terrorist group Hamas has now risen to 1,300 people. Meanwhile, the death toll in Gaza following airstrikes by Israeli forces has reached 1,417, with thousands more injured on both sides. The Gaza Strip is currently without electricity, food or water supplies, and Israel's energy minister has now said energy will not be returned to the territory until Israeli hostages are freed. In the last hour, the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has spoken about humanitarian concerns for those trapped in Gaza following a meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Hamas continues to use civilians as human shields, something that's not new, something that they've always done, intentionally putting civilians in harm's way to protect them, to try to protect themselves or protect their infrastructure or protect their weapons. We did discuss ways to address the humanitarian needs of people living in Gaza, to protect them from harm while Israel conducts its legitimate security operations to defend itself from terrorism and to try to ensure that this never happens again.
As the UK continues its steadfast support to Israel, the government has announced it will send 2 Royal Navy ships to the Eastern Mediterranean and begin surveillance flights over the country. That is in addition to at least 100 reservists and soldiers who've travelled to serve in the Israeli military as they prepare to launch a ground invasion of Gaza. Back in Britain, the families of those held hostage by Hamas said their communities faced a second Holocaust as they struggle to comprehend the violence that has erupted since the weekend. Joining me now is Noam Sagi, whose mother is currently being held hostage by Hamas, and Rabbi Jonathan Wishenberg from the North London Synagogue. Good evening to you both. I mean, your mother, my God, you're sitting here in the studio and you don't know where your mother is or what's happened to her. So what can you tell us about what happened on Saturday? When did you last speak to her?
So we woke up on Saturday morning for urgent phone calls because of the time difference. It's my sister who actually got the calls in Israel from my mom. She realized what is going on outside of her house. She was very, very distraught and alarmed, and she went into the safe room. Each house in Israel have a safe room. Yeah. Designed to protect them from shells and rockets. By 9:30 UK time, it's the last time we heard from her, and that was it. As we got more concerned, I started to see more and more footage coming from Palestinian reporters that reported from the scene, and then I realized they're actually filming from my mom's front lawn.
Oh my God.
And I saw where they're coming and where they're going, and this is where my heart sank, because I can only pray that by the end of this, she will be still there. At 4 p.m., when the army got control of the community of the kibbutz, and they went into her house, it was only some blood stains, and she wasn't there. And that was the last we heard and the last we see. We know for sure she's not on the dead list, she is not on the injured list, and she is not on the rescued list. That was the last.
We're hearing, I mean, I've just said the toll of bodies, the numbers, the figures, but for many people watching and listening, they're just hearing numbers and figures, they're seeing footage, but these aren't real people. They don't know them, they've never met them, they can't imagine them. They're hearing something that's happening far away that sounds absolutely dreadful, but is removed from us here in this country. Now, this is your mother, for goodness sake. So, would you mind telling us a little bit about her, a little bit about her life, a little bit about how old she is, what kind of a mother she has been to you all your life, so that people realise this is a person, a woman, a human being. Tell us a little bit about your mother if you can.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do that. I must say a lot of people here in London know her very well. She's coming, this is her second home, and she spent a lot of time here. So people in and around Hampstead know her quite well. My mom born in 48 for 2 Holocaust survivors, and she, at the age of 18, moved together with my dad, actually, to the kibbutz, to create a community that is actually exactly on the opposite of the experience of her parents, to provide security and safety, to work the land, to create a relationship with the land. So the kibbutz is a very utopic environment. We grew up in children's houses. We didn't really grow up with our parents in the same house, or the kids were together. And she was, she became Arabic and Hebrew teacher. Her mission in life was languages and the ability to communicate as a creating bridge of a better future. Not necessarily politics, not necessarily, it's more about people and connections. She was then the headmistress of the original school and spent most of her life in education. She retired and then became, she's still coaching kids with ADHD.
How old is she?
And she's 75. She was supposed to come here today. I shouldn't be here talking to you. I should be in Heathrow picking her up, and we're supposed to celebrate her 75th birthday in a place in Devon that she likes a lot. She's a mother of 3. She is a grandmother of 6. And she is the most loving, caring, kind, peace-seeking human being you will ever meet. She's also very strong. And I really hope that her mindset and how she coached and helps so many kids over the years to cope and deal with difficulties would really stand for her right now.
And her language skills, of course, as well.
I think it's go without saying.
Yes,
and
hopefully,
that is...
Let me bring Rabbi Wittenberg into this conversation. I mean, we hear during the course of my programme this evening that Rishi Sunak's making £3 million available to protect British Jews from anti-Semitic attacks, which we know have gone up 300% since Saturday morning. You're a rabbi in North West London. I wonder what your thoughts are on that, what you want to say to people about this.
Can I just say, first of all, how humbling it is to listen to you and how important your question was, that numbers aren't numbers. Everybody's a person with a life and their particular relationships. And so everybody who's taken hostage and everybody who's killed, there are people all around the world, many in my community, who feel deeply, deeply connected. So this is a trauma that has engulfed not just Israel, but the whole of the Jewish world and those who've been supportive to us. So there is a mood of trepidation in the community, of deep, deep shock. And of anxiety. People are particularly anxious about their children going to Jewish schools. The CST, the Community Security Trust, has stepped up its work, and it works with government and local authorities and with the police. But we do know that anti-Semitism increases hugely, and as this progresses, we fear what may be said and happen. Within a day, there was a slogan over a bridge in Golders Green about freeing Palestine, and people need to be able to distinguish morally between a terror organization of utter merciless brutality and freedom fighters. These are totally different things, and the people of Gaza and Hamas they are not the same, and we need some moral discrimination here, but the Jewish community is shocked and anxious.
When you told us that your mother's parents were Holocaust survivors. The idea of your mother being subject to whatever attack or kidnap or whatever happened to her on Saturday is so unthinkable, because she must have had the spectre of that somewhere at her back throughout her life. She must have. I remember my own father talking about, my father wasn't a Holocaust survivor, but I remember my father saying, and we fled the pogroms, and that's why we're in this country, and we fled the pogroms. And, the idea of having a suitcase packed in the hall to be ready to run, to ready to escape, that kind of a feeling that lives with you your whole life. And yet you're in Israel, in the Promised Land, building a future, making the desert bloom, all those wonderful cliches that if people go to Israel, they will see actually happening before their eyes in this amazing, miraculous way that was actually all about backbreaking work, maybe some miracles as well, Rabbi. And the idea that they came for her, in that way. It's just agonizing, isn't it?
It is agonizing. I think you described it very well in your question. I think it is, they knew every house. Yeah. They knew how to come in. They knew what they're doing. They gassed them. They took the gas pipe and turned it in and just gassed them inside. So they knew exactly what they want to play on. They burned them alive. They actually slaughtered them and mixed parts so it will be more difficult to identify them, to inflict more pain. And I think it's unthinkable. It's something it's hard to comprehend and to come to terms when it's your own home, when you feel like I have a contract here. I will be protected because I will send my kids to the army and because there is a strong... And they were exposed. They were exposed, and I really feel like, you know, I don't know how long they've been there. I know it's people in their 20s and their 30s and their 40s to come after elderly people and kids mainly. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking to think what she went through in those moments. It's even more difficult to think what she's going through now.
Absolutely. And what, if anything at all, is open to you to do? What can you do apart from wait? What else is there?
So yeah, wait is an option. Despair is an option. Fear is an option, but it's a luxury I can't afford. I feel I'm here. It's good that you're here. But I'm here asking anyone, regardless of faith, regardless of race, regardless of anything, why are we here for? What is the moral code? What is okay and what is not okay? How it's okay that a 9-month-old baby is part of this conflict as a way to resolve something and gain something? How it's okay that old people are being a bargain chip in all this? Where are the lines in terms of our moral code and international law and who applied them and how? And I want every leader and every community leader and every business leader and to take leadership and hold people account and say, this is where the dial is and this is what the moral code is. And it can't be that we're talking about kids under 18. Most of them are much younger than that. And old people over 65, most of them much older than that. One of them was on the kinder transport.
I know.
Yeah, I know her very well. She was my teacher. We know each one. It's one big family. And people need to hold on and say, why? That is not what the Palestinians are standing for. This is not what the Arab world definitely is standing for. The Quran is a beautiful book of values. Where are those values? This is not okay. This is outside of the lines, and people need to say that in a way that is loud and clear and release these hostages without any negotiation. Take the war to where the war needs to be, because it will be, but not on the back of this.
And Rabbi, is that message being delivered by leaders? Are people saying it loudly and clearly, or is it one of these things that is always slightly fudged and never quite said in that kind of way as everybody tries to appease or to hide or somehow or other to apologise? I don't know what's going on, but what do you think?
So at the moment, many world leaders and across the political parties here have been very stalwart in their support for Israel and their naming of Hamas as a terrorist organisation, which it is. But really, that has to penetrate down to all levels of society. It has to be said by religious leaders at all levels, in communities, in schools. And you used the word in our synagogue yesterday, you spoke to our community and here accountability. And if we don't hold people accountable for right and wrong, stunningly evil wrong, then we are part of the problem as well. And therefore, being morally clear about the difference between cruelty, right and wrong, is everyone's responsibility.
And I have
I'm
to
not
say,
sure we
obviously,
hear that clear enough.
Every time we introduce the Subject on the programme, I do the show every weekday, so it's at least twice a show, sometimes 4 times a show that we're doing it. And every time I'm now saying, and the water supplies in Gaza are not getting through, the electricity has been stopped, food supplies are running low, and, you know, people listening with a conscience, people who care about other people, people who, as one of my correspondents in Tel Aviv said on the show just earlier, you know, every baby's life is worth as much as every other baby's life. There are no babies that are more precious than any other babies. People are going to start feeling absolutely desperate on behalf of those in Gaza in this terrible situation, aren't they?
And I think I heard, you know, I was with the head of the Board of Deputies British Jews today, who said very, very clearly, we want a humanitarian corridor so long as it's properly controlled and policed. We do not want to see people in Gaza suffer. They are, in a different kind of way, hostages of Hamas as well, and caught up in the middle of this conflict. And they want a future, they want a life, they wanted to be able to have a freedom and a chance. And you've said that very, very clearly. In spite of your own suffering, you've been very clear about that, which I deeply admire.